What's up, everyone? I want to welcome you to another episode of Unconscious Communication Secrets with myself, Muneer, Al-Busaidi, and today I am going to be talking to you about metaphors. Basically, we're going to be covering the power of metaphors. This is one of the keys to amazing communication, to supremely effective communication, to amazing coaching, as well as to understanding people at another level completely. So let's start with a metaphor for metaphors, right? So what is the job of a translator? When you have an effective translator, what they do is they take something that you don't understand and give it to you in words that you do understand. Okay, so they take something that you don't understand, a language that you don't understand, like, for example, over here you've got Arabic, right? They take something that you don't understand completely and they present it to you in a way that you understand completely. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about when it comes to metaphors, okay? If you want to effectively understand and communicate with people, this is the way to do it. If you watch all my videos, I always use a metaphor. If you look at me when I start to coach people, when I start coaching people, I'm constantly observing people's existing metaphors and building on that. So this understanding what metaphors are the key to really effective communication, as well as understanding people and coaching them very, very effectively. So let's talk about some of the naturalistic examples of where you'll see metaphors being used. Now, in our everyday conversations, we say things like, he's as hard as steel. That's a metaphor. Or that, that politician, he's just a puppet. Meaning, he's being controlled by someone else. Someone else is really responsible, right? But you see, that's a metaphor we use. Like, these are everyday metaphors. We use them all the time. We had all the right ingredients. Like, when you're doing a project and something's gone wrong, but we had all the right ingredients. I mean, we did all the right things, but we just put it together the wrong way. That's a metaphor. You're explaining what's happened. Someone walks in and you say, "Oh man, her smile lit up the room." That's a metaphor, right? Like, her smile lit up the room. It didn't actually light up the room, but you're using a metaphor. So these are very, very powerful. But also, let's look at how we think, because we actually think in metaphors. You see, why are metaphors so powerful? Because we think in metaphors. Now, this is very useful in a lot of ways, but also it can cause us problems sometimes. I mean, look at this list of ways that we think. First of all, the phrase like, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That's not a bad metaphor or a bad way to think, but it's a metaphor in the way that we think, or some people think. Think of it this way. A lot of people say life is a what? Some people will like actually believe that life is a something. Or some people say life is beautiful. Now, someone that believes that life is beautiful, is in their mind, they use that metaphor to believe life is beautiful, versus someone that thinks that life is a they will look at life very, very differently. But that's a very powerful metaphor in the way that we think. So understanding what people think. Some women think men are dogs, for example, or men are a gift, or men are beautiful. I don't know. If depending on what metaphor you use, to look at the world through, will also depend on how you react to different people. Work is a blessing. Work is a this. Work is a that. The way that we metaphorize these different areas of our lives will display in our lives, okay? When someone says, I keep my feelings bottled up, they suppress. You can tell that, sometimes we need to let go. We need to screw the cork, etc. So understanding people's metaphors are, again, very, very, very powerful. Now, let me just... okay, so next is... I want to tell you a very quick story. When I started learning online marketing, I wanted to create a product and I wanted to just sell it online. And I was just like, I created a product and I created a sales page, and in my mind I was like, you know what? People are gonna buy it. Like, just people are gonna buy it. And someone came to me and said, Muneer, you know what? Like, I don't think you should just like directly send people to a sales page. To a page that sells your product. I think you should give them something else instead first, and then later sell it to them. And I was like, no, I didn't really get why they were saying that. And then one day I was doing a course. Like, I was just not getting any sales online. Like, I had this page, it sold the product, and I was like, why am I not getting any sales online? And then I was doing a course by a guy called Ryan Dice. He's the guy that created Digital Marketer, and he has a course, and he was talking about how you need to. So many people create a product and they just try and sell it, and then he said it's sort of like going up to a woman and just if you're a guy, going up to a woman in the street and saying marry me, like you're asking for something big too fast, too soon, especially if you're selling something that requires a bit of thinking. Like, no one's going to come and just buy an expensive product just on the first time they see you. And he said it's sort of like going up to a woman and asking her to marry you the first time. Really, you got to ask for their name first. And that's why you give some, and ask them on a date or this or that, etc. Now, and he said the way that we do that in online marketing is, you offer someone something for free, enter your name and email address, just a small thing, you're not asking for anything major, and then you build the relationship over time. Anyhow, long story short, it made sense to me. Like, this guy had been trying to tell me to do something the whole time, and I didn't listen to him. I didn't get it, and I wasn't getting results. But when Ryan Dice told me this story and used a metaphor, I was like, oh, I get it now. That's why. And because you can't really just go up to someone in the street and ask for a big decision very early on when you meet them. Okay, it makes sense. And so since then, I changed my approach and I got like very, very different results. But you see, all it took was understanding a metaphor. And so you can't just go and ask someone to go, hey, buy it. Like, it's like like walking up to someone and saying, hey, marry me the first time that you meet them. So how do we create and use metaphors? So I'm going to share with you a very quick technique, which I call the pass technique to creating metaphors. Very simple. But it'll give you an understanding of how to create metaphors very quickly. The first thing is, what is the point that you're trying to get across? So, you got to understand what is the point that I'm trying to get across. So, in the case of Ryan Dice, when he wants to tell people, okay, you shouldn't sell something big first on, you gotta build a relationship first. Okay. You've gotta take it slowly. You can't ask for something big straight off the bat. Okay? That was the point that he was trying to make. And then you look for a number of alternatives that could mean the same thing. Okay? A number of alternatives. And that's what the second point is. Like, what are other things that fall in line with that point? What are other examples of that point that you're trying to get across? What else is an example of not asking for a big decision very, very soon, right? buying a house, for example. I don't know. You just come up with a number of different things. And then you say, what's the simplest one that people will understand? What's the simplest one that my audience will understand, my audience can relate to? Because if you're speaking to accountants, maybe you'll use a different example than if you were speaking to, what's it called? I don't know, bus drivers. Just random examples. Like maybe you might use a metaphor that is related to buses in one example, and a metaphor related to calculators in another example. I don't know. But what is it that my audience will relate to? What's the simplest example? And then you just then you use the magic phrase. It's sort of like, it's a little bit like, and then you tell your metaphor. Okay? So that's the way. And if you've got a complex subject and you're trying to sell a piece of software, for example, this is especially when you want to start using metaphors, right? This is where it's so important to use metaphors, because it's going to get you further faster. Now, the next way to utilize metaphors is understanding and listening to when people talk. They will tell you their existing metaphors. All right? Now, you can't use somebody's metaphor on somebody else, but for a particular person, if somebody says to me, you know what, oh my God, like, I don't know, it's just, I keep just like, it's like I keep hitting a brick wall. It's like I keep coming through to a brick wall. And I might say something along the lines of, okay, what would it take for you to smash through that wall? Or is it a wall that you want to smash through, or is it something that you want to go around? I have taken their metaphor and I'm utilizing that in our conversation. Okay? This is very, very important. Now, if I wouldn't use this metaphor with somebody else, because for somebody else it might not make sense, but because that person is living that world, in their mind they're visualizing a wall as their obstacle, and then I'll say, okay, so what would it take for us to get beyond the wall? Is it sort of like smashing through that wall? Do we need to go around? Do we need to get tools to climb over it? What's the deal over there? And and then someone will give me an example. Or it's been weighing on me. Something like someone might say something along the lines of, oh man, it's just, this whole thing's been weighing on me. So what would it take for us to lighten the load? Or what needs to happen in order for us to lighten the load? And it's you're utilizing their model of the world, their kind of thought, their world, to communicate with them. And that's very, very powerful. Or something's just pulling me back. Okay, what needs to happen in order for us do we need to cut the ties of the past or something? You start to utilize words, but you start to talk in terms of their metaphor, and that's very, very, very powerful. And so if we look at applications, how can you apply this in the real world? How can you apply metaphors so that you can get further and faster? And I'm not going to go through all the ways that you can, however, in terms of exactly how. However, if you're training people, you want to be using metaphors. It is key. If you look at all my videos, I always use a metaphor, right? If you're speaking on stage, whether you're selling, whether you're just doing a keynote, etc., any type of speaking, not just training, you want to be using metaphors. Metaphors are amazing tools for communication. If you're coaching people, you must know metaphors. Metaphors are so powerful because they drive people's world. And you got to understand what drives people's world. That's how coaching works. So if you're selling something, understanding their metaphors or creating metaphors to create an understanding. If you're doing therapy, if you want to understand people, etc. There's so many different applications of metaphors. It is so powerful because we think in metaphors. We think in metaphors in many different areas. So if you want to improve relationships, etc. You want to understand how metaphors work. And so let's go to the phrase that pays, the phrase of the day, which is to excel when you communicate, use metaphors to ultimately translate. Let me repeat that again. To excel when you communicate, use metaphors to ultimately translate. All right, cool. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. I truly appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will catch you on another video very soon. Appreciate you. Lots of love. Peace out. And I will see you on another video real soon. One love. Peace out. And I'll see you soon.